Hey, Michael LaFleche here, the professor. How's it going? Hey, I wanted to get in touch with everybody here on social media and LinkedIn and YouTube. Here I am. I'm doing a live stream. I wanted to make sure people know how to use the Onshape MCP server for FeatureScript, and I wanted to just build something live. I haven't tried this before. I want to see how long it takes. Of course, I've been using the Onshape MCP server quite a bit to design all sorts of things, right? Everybody's seen that heat exchanger that's been going around, but I've designed many, many other things, some things even more complex than I think for that heat exchanger you might have seen. But we're going to use Onshape, and we're going to use some other tools. We're going to use Claude to design some stuff, okay? So my setup and, what I'm going to do, let me add, what I'm going to talk about here to the screen. And you can see I'm on my Mac, right? I'm on a MacBook here, and I have my web browser loaded, right? I have Onshape here. Here's that heat exchanger that you see on the Onshape login that we made earlier with the Onshape MCP FeatureScript option in Onshape Labs. And I'm just going to sign in to my Onshape account here. All right. All right, let me log in. There we are. I have lots of passwords and accounts, as you might imagine. All right, and there we are. So I've designed, I have a whole bunch of things that I've designed using the MCP capabilities of Onshape. Here's a bunch of the different, kind of examples that I've made. And I wanted to design a chaise lounge, a manufacturable chaise lounge. So, here I am. I'm in Claude, right? So here's Claude. I'm running just standard installed version of Claude. Okay, I use Claude. I'm on a max plan, okay, just because I've been experimenting and doing a lot of stuff, in Claude. So I didn't want to feel limited in any way. But, what I asked it was to generate a chaise lounge wood cedar style chair with adjustable back and cushions. And in Gamma and Canva and their MCP functions, I want to compare the results. So I asked that, and it was like, okay, Canva doesn't do this this way, but I use Gamma all the time. Gamma is like a slide show tool. Like I design all of my slideshow presentations in it, and it has a very good AI image generator. Now, obviously, this image looks a little funky. That's you'll see that kind of stuff happen. But I liked this one that it gave me. Let me just go back to that media page there. In fact, I can. You can see it expanded upon the description of this for me. So I told Gamma through their MCP server through Claude, which I've hooked up. In Claude, you can go to the different types of plugins. Essentially, you can just connect other tools to Claude, right? And that's what I've done to Gamma, which is an online tool. And there it is. It expanded upon the prompt and gave me this beautiful chaise lounge. And I think that's a great starting point. I think I could probably feed this to Onshape and have it generate a configurable chaise lounge chair. So I'm going to go over here. I'm in Claude Code now. Okay. And I can start a new, a new task, right? And, I could, tell it to do that same thing, design a manufacturable chaise lounge chair in Onshape MCP, just like that. And I'm going to give it this image, right? Now, where is this image? Well, when I told it to store it somewhere, okay? So let me grab the folder and bring it over here. So here I am in my Mac Finder. You always have like a working folder when you're working in LLMs like Claude, and you can tell it, which folder to work in. So like right here, I'm telling it to do, all my memory is local. I actually have, you can add a cloud environment. I have a folder here called Onshape, but this folder is actually under my iCloud, right? So I can, get to it from multiple computers that I've signed into, so my Claude can get there. So it's almost like using the cloud option. But anyway, I'm telling it to use that folder, and that's where it's going to do all of its work. In fact, I could tell it to go to another folder inside of here in the chair folder or something like that. But I have this folder called chair. And this memory folder gets, it adds all of the artifacts that are generated along the way if it's not in Onshape or something like that in a SaaS program. But this is just an output that I'm going to drag and drop here, right in the Claude. Design a manufacturable chaise on chair and Onshape MCP. It needs a cut list. And I want to eventually build an assembly so I can show alternate positions and run simulation. Cushions can also be made because Onshape has surface flattening. So we can get the info needed for the cloth cuts. All right, so that's what I'm going to tell it. I mean, I'm giving it a lot, essentially. I gave it an image, chaise lounge chair, and it's going to hopefully look into things that are kind of ancillary and around chaise lounge chair design. Like the hardware being used, it might need to be a certain material grade, because it's interacting with red cedar. It needs to establish the material properties and all these things. Of course, you're not going to run a simulation, on wood that's going to be nonlinear. It's got grain direction and isotropic, kind of grain direction and things like that. So, there are certain assumptions you can make, though. Like, you can do beam analysis and get, basic checks done on this design. If you're going to have a 200-pound person lay on it, what would happen, right? What would happen if, if it was operated in, ways that we don't expect, right? So we can ask it these questions, while it's doing this, right? So first, you can see what it's doing. It's going to load the Onshape FeatureScript MCP tools. Now, how did I get that? How did I enable that in Onshape? Well, let's go over here. Under here is the App Store, right? And you can see there's a AI tools category, right? So, here are some of the AI tools that are commercially available. And I also have the Onshape Labs section right here. And you can see is Onshape Labs FeatureScript MCP, just like that. And what you would do is you would subscribe to it, just like that. Get it. Anybody can use it, right? So I've already done this, of course, on my other account. That's why it's working. I have multiple accounts here, so I can, jump in and do things. But that's essentially it here. And then, it gives you some instructions on, what's happening here. So you subscribe to this app in the Onshape App Store. And now, you're telling it, when it asks you how to get it set up, if you use Claude or any other kind of LLM, you just talk to it and tell it that you want to do this. And you could copy and paste this information to help it out if you wanted to. But of course, you would need this URL. So, here's just a few examples, of it, right? So, here's Claude code on the side running as a terminal, and then here's a resultant heat exchanger, from there, right? So just like that. So once it's connected, I've connected it. We already got some comments. That's good. Now, it works for creating custom features. That's the general nature of this particular MCP server. It's been programmed in such a way where it will create a custom feature. Like here, I told it, what I'm just showing you some of this stuff while it's cranking in the background. We have a series manifold, right? Something you would hook up a whole bunch of, well, I think I built an assembly here so we can look at the, how it would look in real life. All right, so there I have a bunch of valves, a bunch of Rexroth options here. Let's see, we got, all these different types of things. Now, how did I make that? Well, you can see it's made this feature in a tree that is generating a custom feature, right? It's a manifold feature, but it's created the entire part, right? And this part's, based on how many stations are required and the requirements, right? So the pressure and the material. So those are the system requirements that I designed. And then we need stations that go along the way, right? So if we look at this looks like Onshape, doesn't it? I mean, I've created a custom manifold feature, which station we want: a shuttle station, a check station, a proportional station. It's checking math along the way. You can identify what things are going to be hooked up to a PNID. This is like some harebrained project I'm working on in the background right now, try to figure out how I can hook these up to PNIDs. But you can see, it's doing a lot. It's even generating the model-based definition information to do this, right? And I can even go in and modify the type of tolerances if I wanted to. And then I have it doing some analysis, flow and thermal load. There we are, and I'll hit final, and it's doing checks for me, right? Temperature rise. Oh, geez, that's a large rise. That's kilowatts. That's why. Oh my gosh. Let's try something a little more realistic there. My goodness. But it's telling me that, right? It's showing me that. And I like to also tell it how the feature was generated. You can see here, I usually have a design prompt or some kind of about info in the actual feature itself that explains the feature, because all these features are quite unique and different. You don't see a manifold feature in most CAD programs. So here it is. This was a parametric series manifold with pressure-driven galleries, DFM gates, real drill cavity. The DFM gates are over here, essentially, right? If I go over to the data sheet, it's showing me information about the manifold. And then here's this port schedule thing that I'm trying to put together so I can get reporting out and perhaps drive routed tubing and things like that. All right, so that is one example of this in action. So let's see what's going on over here. A lot of, when you're using Claude and things like, to do automation, this is the way my day goes, essentially, right? I type in something and I go off and do something else, and then I'll check on this and see how it's doing and kind of babysit it, right? So here we are. It's using all the tools, and we'll see what happens next. I generally don't use it through the actual Claude interface like this, but I have been starting to. I usually, in previous videos, you would see me talking about, using a terminal window or something like that, because you could connect to do other API things in Onshape. You can still do that. So FeatureScript MCP is for creating those custom features that you see in the tree, which generate geometry and do all sorts of math and everything. You can also just use the Onshape API, right? With Claude and other LLMs as well, right? So if I go to my account, I can see I have a developer page. Here is my overview. I've different amounts of API requests, right? Every time I interact and create something using the MCP, it will, use an API, use my API allocation, right? if you're a company, you get a certain amount. If you're a person who used to get a certain amount, you can always get more if you really need it. But you can see, where I am right now this year. And here are different API keys that you can access. You would need the secret and everything, so I'm not too worried about you seeing this. But here you can see, I have an access key to do other things in Onshape. You can also create OAuth applications, that will sign in. Like I created this one here called this PPAP inspector. So it's not just FeatureScript stuff that you can do with an LLM in Onshape. I had it write a full first article inspection tool that would read the MBD data and then generate reports in, PPAP reports and AS9102, and, all the formats you would need for inspection of parts. All right. So it's still processing in the background. You notice it's not taking over my computer or anything like that. It's it's all happening in the background. So it looks like it's doing stuff now. It's going to looking at my local directory where that image was. Here it's actually showing me the feature script that it's starting to create. And it's doing it here, instead. So look what it's doing here, okay? So it's creating code. This is FeatureScript code that is being generated by the system. And if I looked at that manifold again, this feature in this part are essentially driven by this code right here, right? And you can see how it's laid out. It's got the version of Onshape, and then it's declaring your UI and interface. It's doing math, setting colors based on materials, setting the actual material properties. That's possible now. You can run simulation very easily. Here's the MBD dimensions. And, of course, we could write all of this all along, right? This is not something that you couldn't do before in Onshape. Since day one of Onshape, pretty much, back in the old days, Onshape, every feature in Onshape is built in FeatureScript. So if you can, of course, code tools are very easy to talk with LLMs, and now you can just make the LLM create the custom feature. And of course, Onshape feature studios are very powerful. You can take what it gives you and modify it and do checks, and it's looking for I have different ways of filtering through. I can monitor it and profile it to see what the performance is like. So I have all the extreme power of a developer, but it's in my cloud-based Onshape environment. Okay. So it's creating that entire custom feature for a chaise lounge chair, right? We're going to see how good it does on the first go. The first go is usually not good. Just saying, the first go is going to give you something pretty basic, and you're going to want to continue to refine and get to where you want to get to until you're happy. Essentially, that's the way I've been going with this. All right, so it's creating. It might be, I didn't tell it which document to put it in. So that might be just going into some other document. So, or it hasn't created it yet. So it might be smart enough to create the document because I've done that before, because I have API keys and I've told Onshape to do that in the past. It will likely do it again. So that's what I'm waiting for right now, is to see a document here. And if I don't see it, I'm going to ask Claude about it once it's done thinking here. All right, so now it's testing it. So the cool thing about the MCP tool, it generated all that code, but now it's going to test it itself, and it's going to find problems with it and then modify it and fix it again and loop through that process. Okay, so that is really the power the most powerful part of this way of working, I think, right? Oh, I have people watching. This is great. Hey, Martin, how you doing? Nice to see you. I'll try to do this more often. I know some people just need to kind of see it happen, because it's kind of hard to show in a really short 2-minute video. So I think, I want to try doing this, but I'm going out on a limb here right now because if you've used this kind of stuff before, it's not quite, you're not going to be quite sure exactly how long it's going to take. But it looks like it's right on schedule. I think in a few moments we'll probably see something here. All right, looks like it's doing its thing. Almost done thinking. Trying to see if I can understand this. All right, it says that it compiles and evaluates cleanly. Now it's building it into an actual workspace in Onshape, I think. Now, I want to make sure I'm using the right account too, so because I could totally be building this in another Onshape account because this could be hooked up to my other Onshape account. So these are some of the things that I need to check for. So let me actually do that. I'll go in under here, into my normal production account, and I'm gonna get my password here. All right, let's see. I don't think it's here either. So it's probably in the other one. I just need to, you can see some of my really old documents there. Looks like it's doing stuff because Claude has come back with an image here of a top view of the 3D model, which looks pretty promising. Let's see, it's image 2, image 3. Well, this is pretty close for a first try. That's the best first try I've ever seen. All right, let me just finish signing in. And I can just ask it where it put it and what the URL is. So I'll just ask it what the URL is to that doc. I was kind of careless and didn't declare it up front. But I'm getting excited. This looks pretty good. If I go to that folder, Claude that I have, yeah, there's nothing else there for me to look at. So just have to be patient and see my chair appear. All right, model is built. Now see, look at this. It's the model's built. Let me get the Feature Studio so I can patch a stowed position clash I spotted. So that's pretty cool. It's checking the interferences in multiple positions. And now it's gonna do a thing to fix it. Oh, and here's the URL. So that. Don't have access to it. So this tells me I'm probably in the wrong account. Let me sign in again. Sorry about that. All right, let's take that URL again. Says I have no permission to that doc. So that's queued. It's still doing its thing, but you can say, it says I have no permission to the doc. Hey, Ethan, nice to see you. I know. I need to get this going. All right. So I have a tool that I've launched in Claude that will actually launch my web browser and do things. So, actually, no, that's not what it's doing. There's an in-app browser now in Claude. So that's pretty cool. So I need to sign in. All right. So I signed in. So this is totally my fault for having multiple accounts and not remembering which one I started with. It was I just wanted to get on air, but I really should have checked first. Because I've been using multiple versions of this, as you might imagine, but this is I'm trying to use the production stuff here for you, and it is FeatureScript production. There is a test feature that it probably put it in. I might as well just work on it like this. This is kind of cool. So I can have Claude over here, and I have my Onshape browser window just inside of Claude this time. Well, it's a benefit of having a cloud-based CAD system. Oh, I see. Let me Okay, whoever it's doing it as has access apparently. I'm not signed in as that person right now, so we'll let it do its thing. Let me look at these images though while we're waiting. Yeah, it looks like it's got the slats in there. It's got obviously basic cushions, nothing, not manufacturable cushions yet, but we'll get there. I didn't expect that on round one. It probably doesn't have little latch bars and things, but it looks like it's created a multi-body construction. It's got clearances between the wheels. We've got a little shaft here, so yeah, not bad. All right, so here we are. MCP servers, OAuth session, and your browser session are in different Onshape account contexts. Let me check the account switcher. Found it. Oh, it's going to hand me the code directly. Oh, geez. I'm just going to tell it where I am, right? So my account, this is my PTC account, and I'm going to create a document. I'm going to create a document right now. Call it the chair. All right. And I'm going to take that URL and I'm going to say, no, I would rather you do this for me. I am signed in as m.flash@onshape.com, or PTC, I should say. And I want the go to that document that I pasted in. I also want you to use version control and document notes to tell me all about the feature so it is documented in the left MD notes panel. I say MD for Markdown because it's going to use Markdown language. It's really happy with what it did. Oh, I see. It put it in my, that makes total sense. It's in my proper demo account. And I put it in that MCP workspace. So I'm telling it, okay, stop, wait a minute, make it a new document and version control it. I have a folder I like to stick my MCP in, so I'll just do that. Create document, chaise lounge, chair. Now I'm copying the URL. I want it to be clean, right? I want it in a new document with its own version control. I don't care. I spelled the name wrong here, didn't I? There we are. Chaise lounge chair. It's okay. I can do that while things are happening. It doesn't rely on files or any stupid stuff like that. Maybe I didn't copy the whole thing. I keep hitting the wrong button. All right, told it where the dock is. It wants me to be onshape.com. I can probably share it to that person. Let me do that in another browser so I don't have to keep logging in and out in front of you. All right, so I've logged into another window on another screen. Right now, both my users should have access to the dock. Until I have to try again. Now it sees the chair I made in my other account now. It's instead of the one I'm looking at. Really appalled. I should just start this thing over and do this again, but I do this all the time, every day. I didn't think it would be an issue. All right, I'm going to stop. I need to figure this out because I'm getting pissed off. Okay, it looks like we're getting somewhere now. Okay, so it's created a new document right here. There it is, right? And here is the Feature Studio waiting for input. I'm not going to touch it. I am going to watch it put code in here. I could have copied and pasted it as it was suggesting, but I didn't want to do that. I want the MCP to do its thing, go back and forth and do it, not me do it. Now I'm using Claude tokens right now. It's using some API stuff with Onshape, but not nearly as much as what you would be doing from Claude or any other LLM. All right, there it is. Which means I could probably take a look at it and use it. So let's go to the Part Studio tab now. Now it's going to verify it itself. So I'm going to let it kind of do its thing right now, because I believe it'll probably just go in and drop in the feature and see if it works. All right, so it's done with the Feature Studio, and it's created a new Part Studio. I see it right here now. Ah, and there it is. All right, now we're in business. So let's delete the blank Part Studio, blank assembly. It's named everything appropriately, which is nice, right? Let me go full screen here. Of course, it's a little different here. We've got wooden latching mechanism compared to the original one, which I'll just pull out from here and stick into the Onshape document, just so we have a image of it. Oh no, it was wood, but it's this is nicer because it's got a smoother interface for the rod here, right? Yeah, it's done a good job. You know, it's probably looked across the internet, looked at various designs that are publicly available. You know, it's not finished yet because of course we need some pins here and all that, but you know, this is not a bad first attempt, you know, at a chaise lounge chair. So let's see if it did the things that I like it to do. It did. Okay. So you see what it did. Let's investigate everything. The first thing that I'd like to draw your attention to is that I had it create a version, right? We're at version 0.1. Like I didn't tell it to write that in. This is very great that it did this. This is not part of the FeatureScript MCP server. This is just API keys and connectivity to the Onshape tools for doing that. It's still the LLM and Claude doing it, and it's just doing it through a different means, okay? I also like to have it put document notes in. It didn't do that yet, so I'll remind it to do that. Let's look at the chair itself. Let's see if I can zoom in on this window. I don't want to zoom in on... Yeah, it seems like it doesn't want to zoom in on the interface of Onshape in this window. But that's all right. Let's see what we got. It gave us a feature, overall size, stock sizes. Now the defaults are pretty lame. I'm going to tell it that because, you know, those sizes aren't going to regenerate anything, right? You know, how big did it actually make it? Let me make sure it's, yes, it's appropriate in length, 77 inches for that. So that's about right. But these defaults for generating it are lame. So that's the next thing I'm going to have it do. The defaults for the sizing are bad. Make them regeneratable. So that's the next thing I would do, is just have it do that. And while it's doing that, I can go to my in SaaS. Let me switch to my company. Just go to another browser window that's a little easier to look at. All right. So it's working in the background, doing the default stuff. That shouldn't take too long for it to figure out. So we'll let it do its thing before I interfere with it in any way. Because, yeah, but the goal is, you know, if I insert this feature again and I'm in business to make chaise lounge chairs, I want to be able to pump these things out. I want to just, you know, use it almost as like a configurator almost, right? And then, you know, if there's any custom things I need to do with it, inscriptions or special things, you can still use all your normal CAD modeling tools, but you have the IP that's the basis of your chaise lounge. Obviously, it's a very simple engineering problem, but imagine deeper engineering problems with sensitive IP that you want to keep private, and that's only for your engineering department's ears and eyes, right? You know, this is where, you know, the real benefit is. You know, I'm taking a shortcut by providing an image and just telling it to do this, right? But there's other ways you could feed it information. I gave it an image, but you could give it a 3D mesh. You could give it a CAD model itself. You could give it PDFs of spec sheets. I've taken catalog pages and had it built, you know, connectors and things like that and valves very easily from that kind of information. So if you give it a source or a wellspring of information, it's going to really help. Otherwise, it's going to go off on its own and try to find information, and it might not be what you're expecting. So let that continue to do its thing. Let's see, where are we on? We're on effort high. I could go faster or smarter. It's an interesting slider. I'm going to go medium because this is not a big problem I'm asking for it to solve for this moment. internal sizing constraints are hard coded. Let me derive and add real guardrails. Okay. So we should see something appear on the screen as soon as it's done. And then we can make all those changes to it. Need some good music. I wish I could share some tunes from the turntable here, but don't want to get in trouble with the music authorities. They do have. Okay, hopefully I didn't lose the entire stream. I clicked a button and it ended the stream. All right, let me go over here and see. Looks like we're still going. All right. All right, let's see what is next. It should be putting that new FeatureScript code in and then giving me a feature where the default values will all resolve. With a full history of everything that's happened, by the way, right? So every single time the AI commits, I like to have it create a full version. Like here, if I click into it, I can see what it made at that moment, right? This is great. I can actually walk through the evolution, of this, right? So I'll let it do its thing. We can look at this though while we're waiting for it. Let's see if there's a cut list. Yes, we have a cut list. All right, I told it to make a cut list as well, remember? And that's our unique cut list because, we're in a multi-body part studio and we want to make sure, like things like deck slats, right? This is like a, in an assembly, you'd get the right count, but in a part studio, I just have a bunch of duplicate deck slats. But if I just tell the system to create a cut list based on this information with thickness, width, and length, it's even better than the frame tool out of the box because, you might have items that don't have frame-based information for thickness, length, and width at a stock size. You'd have to do like extra work to set up a cut list. This is just doing it for me. I can stick this on a drawing. This table is actually available to stick on a drawing. I didn't know if you knew that. I'll show that to you before we wrap this up. Let's see if it's done on the, we still haven't cut version 0.2. Yeah, and with its fixes, it finds issues, right? So, you can see it's 247. It just fixed something, found it. Now it's trying something new again. Okay. Well, looks like it It's trying out different sizes now. See, this is great. I'm not touching the screen and it's trying out all of them. So when you build one thing using the FeatureScript MCP server and Onshape, you're essentially building all of them, right? You're building something that is not a one and done operation, right? You're building something that can be used and shared forevermore. So it's finding 11 buildable cases, 3 impossible ones. Let me confirm the warning text, and then it's going to version it for me. All right, let's, it's still working on it. Okay. Now, while we're waiting for that, we could do an AI quick render of this. Can we put this in a deck environment with trees and stuff? I'm actually going to put this on my actual deck because what I'm going to do is bring it to my iPad and put it in AR view or something. But, you know, you can do this kind of stuff while waiting for it, right? You know, it's, you know, the things like this AI render is going to be good at because it's going to take these cushions, which are just blocks, and hopefully make them look more cushiony. Okay, so it's there. We have a floating, it's floating, but, you know, we have cushiony cushions. So yeah. All right, let's see if it's created a version yet. It has. And now we can compare version 1 versus version 2. See the differences. We can even look at the differences in the feature itself. Oh, that's better. All right, but anyway, that's kind of boring. So I think the next stages would be to, you know, finish off the work here, right? To maybe I want to show it in multiple positions. Oh, come on. It already has it in. Now, the defaults are still not right. Like, I'm not happy with that. But I like where it was going because it was showing me all my different notch settings. Okay, so still not good on the defaults. As soon as I edit, all the defaults go to 1 inch. So that's how I'm going to continue to improve on it. So I would do that until I get, you know, my basic stuff, my foundational elements out of the way. Then I go into more detail, right? I go into the wheels. You know, these wheels are just cylinders right now, so they'll actually need to be real wheels. I'll need to specify them. I might decide to actually do that as a separate feature. I might tell it to keep the wood items as one feature, the cushion items as another feature, and the wheels as another. That's a mode that I've been working in quite a bit lately. Like on this water tank. This is my most complex one so far, I believe. It's a full-on water tank. And you know, you can see how it's built. We have the first feature is the tank. The second feature is the ladder and stairs that read the information from the size of the tank. Roll to end. Oh, it's still rebuilding. I mean, this one's, look at this. It's only, the rebuild time is insanely good. Let's see where the other thing's going. Oh, you can't have multiple tabs? Oh, you can. Okay. I've never used this Claude browser before. This is a first time for me. All right, so it's still working on it. You can see a little icon here. All right. So what I'll do, is I'll keep on working on this, right? And share the URL to the final result when I'm done. But I think that's almost all the time I have here today for spending on this. I had an hour open on the calendar that I was trying to fill in with something to prepare for something else, and this was the best way of doing it. So let's see if it finishes up here, and then I'll say adios to everybody. Yeah, so it's found bounds, spec, shapes are valid, so it's the default annotations reverting them. And of course, I could have looked at that here, and figured that out too. All right, everybody. Well, it was good to spend some time showing you what the process is like. Sometimes it's extremely smooth. Sometimes you do stupid stuff like I did, being in the wrong account. But I don't think you would hit that because you're going to have one account and not have a million like I do. This is the process. You just kind of go back and forth with it. You tell it to update it. I highly recommend using API keys to also have it do things alongside the process to make the process better. Like that, telling it to always version things, telling it to put document notes in, things like that. So those are very helpful. Tell it to also build custom tables. These are going to be your best friend, because you're going to be able to make things that are not part of the UI the way you might want it, and you're going to be able to get it the way you want for your company and your business, right? So, take advantage of that. All these things can be useful, as assemblies, drawings. You can run analysis. You can render them. It's all... I'll just do a rigid part studio right there. I could create a drawing of this, right? So all that stuff works. In fact, if you create a drawing of the part studio, it might even be better in this case because it'll pull in keep creating assembly. I want a drawing. Create a drawing. D-size, no views. All right, let's do that. Oh, I didn't want the assembly. Do 1 to 4. So looks like it's still working on. Yeah, there we go. Refresh the drawing there. So that way we get the back on it. And see this custom table button? That custom table button, I can insert any of the custom tables like that chaise cut list. See that? Just like that, we have that table and it will always be up to date. If I refresh it, because it's doing stuff to the feature studio or the part studio and the feature studio, we're going to see that update right now. Oh, you see there's, it's in the middle of an update. It still hasn't finished, right? So, all right, now it's finished. There we are. All right. All right. It versioned it for me as well. So that means I think that means it fixed my issue with the correct dialog defaults. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's better. So now we have something that's going to rebuild successfully every time. I could further refine this to like just not ask for every single thing and just have it do it based on back end math, behind the scenes without an item here, but hardware and clearances. We got the cushions. So I'm going to keep on going with this to make it fully built. I wonder what it looks like in AR view. I'm just getting my iPad out. And I have my chaise lounge here. Just it's doing a quick update. I haven't opened it since we did the last update, I guess. There we are. Chaise lounge. All right, I'm going to show you what this looks like in AR view. Now, I don't have enough room in my office for the chaise lounge, and I can't walk too far away from the mic to do this. I'm not set up to do a full mobile thing just now, but it works with AR view. I'll cut a full video of that later, I think, to show that. But there's a lot of other things that could be done with the chaise lounge. But this is just a basic kind of intro on how to like start an MCP session, how to battle issues. You won't battle the issues of logins that I had. So yeah, hopefully this helps. See you later.